It's not possible to overstate the power of relationships. We just touched on a few things here.
I always wanted to create a place that I want to work, right? I spent a ton of time there.
Hey Restorers, welcome to a fresh episode of the Restoration Masterclass brought to you by Answer Force. I am very excited to have a beautiful young woman with me today, Taylor Carmichael. She is with Southeast Restoration. She is the Director of Systems and Instructional Design. And I've gotten to know Taylor through some emails back and forth. She's written some things for CNR. I've gotten to meet her at some industry events and hang out, and she has a lot of valuable knowledge to share. So I'm excited to bring her into this conversation about power skills and kind of these power skills or soft skills that she sees as totally necessary to be a rock star in the restoration industry. So Taylor, thank you so much for being here. I'm going to toss it over to you to introduce yourself and also share what it means to be the Director of Systems and Instructional Design, because that's a big title.
Thank you, Michelle, and thank you so much for inviting me to this masterclass. I'm really excited to share with you and your listeners as well. So just as a brief introduction, as Michelle mentioned, my name is Taylor Carmichael, and I serve as the Director of Systems and Instructional Design for Southeast Restoration. I have been within the industry now for a little over 10 years, so I have definitely partaken in that industry Kool-Aid that everyone talks about. But at Southeast, we actually refer to that as blue Kool-Aid specifically. So what I love most about my role here at Southeast, because it is a niche role, I guess you would say. I don't hear a lot of people that have that, but I don't have an external customer facing role. My role at Southeast Restoration is my team members, our team members are my customers specifically. So as a director of systems and all things technology and the instructional design that supports that, it's my role to find the right tools for our team members to help them be successful in their roles, and then to also provide the knowledge for said tools for them to be successful in their roles. So I like to say I'm helping them gather arrows for their quiver to help them be successful in the field. And then just a couple personal nuggets. I'm married. I have 2 boys, ages 6 and 2, and I live on a small farm in North Georgia.
That is very fun. I love it. So I'm going to go a little off script here. You've been in the industry about 10 years. I think all of that maybe at Southeast. So what was your starting point at Southeast? Because I'm guessing you did not come into this position and it was created probably as you evolved in the company. So where did you start and how did you grow into this?
Yes, so you're correct. My 10 years in this industry is all with Southeast Restoration. So I'm incredibly beneficial for the growth path that I've had the opportunity to be on. So currently I work out of our support center, which is technically our corporate office, but we refer to that as our support center. And when I started at Southeast in 2014, I had just graduated college with my bachelor's degree, and I was really just kind of looking for something to get my foot in the door. And we have an office in Canton, Georgia. It's actually right down the street, our North Metro Atlanta office. And I started at that office as a customer service representative answering the phones. And I worked there for about a year. I always knew I wanted something more because I'm always thirsty for knowledge and learning. I'm a lifelong learner.
Yep.
But that experience, even though I only did that role for 1 year, that experience has helped me incredibly get to where I am today, because now I have the knowledge base of what are our team members that are actually doing these things, using these tools, doing the frontline work. I have more of an appreciation for that, and I understand, sometimes your day gets interrupted. There's a literal fire that you need to deal with, so I'm always sensitive to that. when we are introducing new systems or new processes. So started out there as a customer service representative. After a year, came to our support center as a business systems coordinator, and I was that for quite some time. And then a couple years ago, that evolved into a director role. But I know God definitely had me here for a reason. You know, when I was learning about Southeast 10 years ago and really didn't know who they were, just some little nuggets kept falling into place. Like, okay, I didn't know. I feel like I'm meant to be here. And just high level example, Ben Looper,
Hmm.
our CEO, president of the RIA, when I was a little girl, I used to go trick or treating at his wife's aunt and uncle's house. And, you know, I was maybe 5, and Ben and Brandy would be there on the couch of them getting my candy. And, you know, I had no idea about any of this
Yeah.
stuff. Um, Also, Trent Anderson, our
Yep.
president and COO, our grandmothers were friends. They were neighbors. My uncle was a trade partner doing tree work for us. And I had no idea about any of this until I started working here. Like, this was supposed to happen.
Yeah. Lots of connections. Yes.
Lots of connections. And it's been a wonderful ride.
I love it. Okay, so I'm guessing on the instructional design side, a lot of what you're doing has to do with technical skills, but restoration obviously also involves a lot of these power skills or soft skills, whatever term you prefer to use. So what on the soft skills side do you think is like absolutely necessary to thrive in our industry, specifically probably if we're talking about being in the field?
Yes. So I look at power skills, i.e., soft skills. Those are your non-technical skills that empower an individual to collaborate, to lead, and to ultimately adapt. And for a field team member, I think the most important soft skill, power skill that you can have really is emotional intelligence.
Mm-hmm.
Also communication and adaptability, because this industry is not easy. You need to be able to adapt. But I feel like if you have your emotional intelligence in check, that the rest of those power skills can fall into play where they need to. But often in this industry, we're facing customers during a tragedy. It
Mm-hmm.
is one of their worst days of their lives, and we're coming in, you know, immediately almost after that happened.
Yeah.
And when we can understand and manage our own emotions and we can have a clear mind, we can show empathy to those customers and then serve them with excellence ultimately in their time of need. So for me, emotional intelligence is number one. Once you have that power skill defined and you have you kind of know that within yourself, I feel like the rest of those very important power skills will fall into line where they need to naturally.
Perfect. So, do you have any examples at Southeast? I'm sure you have many where maybe, people at Southeast have learned like that emotional intelligence and the importance of meeting the customers where they are, being adaptable, all of those things, and how that altered what could have been potentially a bad outcome of a job, altered the outcome of a job.
I do. So one really good example was actually just this past summer. So one of our estimators, his name is Chad Geist. He was on call and he was responding to a fire job that came in. And when Chad got there, this family's home had just burned down.
Hmm.
And luckily, though, the family's bearded dragon was saved in this fire. And so this bearded dragon, her name was Grace. So we always said it was like saving Grace was a thing that we said around here. But I say all that to say, on paper, Chad's there to, let's sell a job,
Mm-hmm. Yep.
things of that nature.
Yep.
But Chad met the customers where they were, saw a need, and personalized their experience. And he said, look, I know you guys, you don't have a home, you don't have any family or friends' house to go to. I know you need a hotel. Your bearded dragon, who needs things to survive, is essentially not going to do well if you take it to this hotel. And they couldn't anyways.
Okay.
And our estimator there to do a specific job said, okay, let's put all that to the side. I am going to take your bearded dragon with me and I'm going to take care of this thing while we restore your life and repair your property. So he took Grace with him, stopped by a local pet store, got all the things a bearded dragon needs, a glass aquarium, a heat lamp, crickets, all the things. And he took this thing home with him that night and took care of this bearded dragon because it was just left cold in a bucket. It likely would have died because it needs heat, right? And so not only did this thing end up becoming, the office pet for a couple weeks while we were doing this customer's property, but what's smart about Chad is that's just who he is naturally anyways. Has such a servant heart. And he was smart in that because him taking that bearded dragon, they're gonna have to call you back.
Our pet.
You just opened up so much communication.
Yes.
So it was a really smart move for him. He's empathetic, has wonderful communication power skills anyways, but it was also a smart business move as well because they're gonna have to pick up the phone and give you a call.
That's hilarious. I was thinking as you were telling that story, I'm like, would I be brave enough to take somebody's like pet that I don't know how to care for? A cat or a dog, sure, but a bearded dragon is a whole nother thing. So good for Grace. I would have loved having Grace, I'm sure, as an office pet. That sounds wonderful. So
yeah, they would get her out, put her on their shoulder in meetings. It was a whole thing for for a little while, but it was just really cool to see. That's what I love about this industry. Every day is different. Some days you're writing estimates and talking with adjusters, and other days you're saving bearded dragons.
Saving bearded dragons. So how have you seen, because you're so team facing, as you said in the beginning, how have you seen kind of soft skills or power skills throughout your team help contribute to people staying at Southeast, like bringing your retention rate up and your churn rate down?
Sure. So at Southeast Restoration, we have a saying where we like to grow team members up and to the right. And so what do I mean by that? If you can imagine a line graph that has 4 quadrants, and we can rate team members based upon their productivity and also their core value fit at Southeast Restoration. You don't want somebody that's highly productive but low on the core value fit. And conversely, you don't want somebody that's high on the core values but is not productive, right? You have to find that sweet spot. And that's what we refer to as A players.
Yep.
And we have several leadership development programs here at Southeast with emerging leaders. We have coaching cornerstones. And in these programs that we have, we are intentionally teaching on power skills for these team members they're getting fed this knowledge that they might not have necessarily learned somewhere else. So in those programs, again, we're very intentional with teaching on those soft skills. And when they're growing and developing and getting poured into, we have seen a return on investment as it relates to our people, which is our greatest asset, and a good retention rate for people that go through those programs.
That's awesome. And have you found any of the power skills to be difficult to develop? I mean, how easy is it to develop? Emotional intelligence is a really big one. And that's one where when I think about it, I think largely people have it or they don't. It can probably be trained a little bit, but you got to have at least a little bit of something. Probably you're probably not going from none to like maybe somewhere in the middle. Maybe you can get a little, but is there any that are really hard to develop?
Yeah, that is a difficult one too. I always talk about self-awareness. You got to be self-aware.
Yes.
But even though this is, I don't want to say an easy power skill because it's really not. I think the hardest one is actually communication.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason I say that is one of my favorite quotes by a gentleman. His name is George Bernard Shaw.
Mm-hmm.
And he says the single biggest problem with communication is the illusion that it has taken place to begin with.
Yes.
So when you really unpack the meaning behind that, people in the restoration industry, you're getting communication in so many overwhelmingly different ways. You have emails, phone calls, text messages, TPA notes that need to be addressed, other notifications from other systems and platforms, just all the things. So with communication, you have to slow down long enough to find some sort of system, some sort of process to put these open loops, is what I like to refer to them, in a central repository so you can come back to one place to recenter yourself. So over the last year, Southeast has put a hyper focus on our internal communication workflows to really define how can you essentially take all that communication that's up here in this one big funnel, and how can you funnel that down to where you have this one specific place to go to answer those open loops, to manage to manage your tasks, to manage your emails. So that's something that has been, it's been difficult, but once we put that laser focus on teaching people how to just approach their work differently as it relates to communication, we've seen a return on investment greatly, not only with efficiency and productivity, yes, but also retention. It's helped some of our project managers that don't have that natural knack for organization and communication. Once we developed a system for them to organize these types of things, they have done just an exceptional job in growing that power skill of communication within them.
That's a great answer. And communication, kind of like emotional intelligence, can make or break a job. That is where
really can.
customers are going to get probably the most frustrated if you're not communicating well with them as well. So internal and external, a great skill. Okay, Taylor, anything else you want to add about power skills before we wrap it up?
I would say the last thing that I do want to add is we as restoration contractors, most of us don't sell tangible things, right?
Yep.
We don't sell paint.
Yep.
I don't sell drywall. We sell our power skills, right? That's a huge part of it. So at Southeast, we confidently say we sell 3 things here at Southeast Restoration. What are those 3 things? Communication, guidance, and timely completion. Those are the 3 things that we sell.
That's very, very wise. I love that. And that's what customers care about. So, all right, Taylor, thank you so much for sharing all of your insight. And I look forward to connecting with you at some shows in 2025 or whatever that may be. Congrats on your success so far in the industry. And I look forward to seeing you soon.
Awesome. Thank you, Michelle.